Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Just doing a little afternoon show for you guys and gals. We're going to break down the defensive performance here from the Green Bay Packers on Sunday's win against the New York Giants, getting the dub 27-20. Obviously, winning the turnover differential 2-0 was huge. Although one of those turnovers came on the final play of the game with the strip sack from Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons making his presence felt the entire game. Obviously, Evan Williams with the huge interception. We'll talk about kind of where he graded out, which was kind of surprising, to be honest with you, where PFF had him. And again, anytime we jump into the PFF grades, this is something we wanted to do last night. We ran out of time on the live show because it was just an extension of Victory Monday all day long, which was an absolute blast. Anytime we break down the PFF grades, we're going to try to cross-check them and look at NFL Pro data. We're also breaking down the tape. We're going to be doing that tonight at 6 p.m. Central for PTA Live Chalk Talk edition, highlighting the 16 most important plays from the Packers' victory over the Giants. So we try to look at it from three different angles and give you guys a full description, a full explanation of how these players played, how the coach is coached, throughout the entirety of the game and just from different angles. So before we get into all that, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your afternoon. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on the daily. Like I said, tonight we'll be going live for Chalk Talk, breaking down the all 22 and what happened, why did it happen in that win for the Packers over the Giants. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit subscribe and click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. So I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Kind of a impromptu show, but got a bunch of people following in. We got Chuck Jaggers in the house, Mitchell's mommy. We got the Boz in the house. Good to see you, sir. We got Tyler Nording. Good morning to you, Tyler. Hopefully you're having a great day here. We got Anthony in the house. We got Bungie Cheddarbug. Everybody following in. Miss Jerry in here. Everybody sit up straight. Miss Jerry's in the house. Cannonball John, another favorite here. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome day. Let's dive into it, man. I want to make this as quick a stream as possible, get you guys back on your day. And the defensive grades in terms of PFF, right? This is from the Giants game, week 11. And no surprise here, we're going to highlight 5 guys that really stood out, and then we'll kind of look at some other players that graded out a little bit lower that I'm kind of shaking my head a little bit like I don't understand how they graded out that bad. And again, if you don't trust PFF, I completely understand that. We're just going to give it from all different angles here. Micah Parsons, 89.6, played 61 snaps. You love to see that. A lot of people dogging on Rashan Gary this week. I just want to point out, and we'll get to his grade in a second, he only played 39 snaps. That kind of seemed odd to me. I'm wondering if maybe he was banged up. He wasn't on the injury report. It could be something that maybe Enigbare and what they wanted to do schematically against Jameis Winston, which, by the way, you'll see in Chalk Talk, I think we've got 2 or 3 plays where we ran fire zone blitzes, dropping 55 out of the cheetah package, right? You know, the cheetah package being 3 edge rushers on that 4-man front and running 55 cheetah where they actually put in Enigbare and they would drop him into coverage. So I'm wondering if that was a part of trying to confuse Jameis Winston and forcing him to throw into coverage, which it kind of worked. They did that several times. It didn't go to 55, but several times they had opportunities for interceptions. They just could not make the play. So I'm thinking it might have been something a little more schematic. I'm wondering if Rashan Gary's battling an injury. We'll see when the injury report drops tomorrow. Or is it something that they're starting to phase him out? Because the reality is next year you could get out of a good little chunk of that contract with Rashan Gary if you wanted to move on. People hear me say that and they go, Clayton, you've been the biggest Rashan Gary fan there is. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you've got to reevaluate everybody at the end of the season. You know, that's why going into the season, I'm like, based off what we've seen last year from Rashan Gary, is a dominant performance. Talking about a guy that his peers rated him, what was he, 80th? The 80th best player in the entire National Football League. That includes everybody, offense, defense, special teams, everybody, right? So he had a great year last year, in my opinion, especially against the run. This year, I'm not seeing it as much. We'll see how he finishes. He started off really, really strong, and it's kind of fizzled out here lately. But again, 39 snaps as opposed to Micah Parsons' 61. And I want to say Kingsley Enagbare. Kingsley Enagbare had 40 snaps, guys. So he had 9 more snaps than Rashan Gary. We need to figure out why that is. Maybe if you guys have any information, throw it in the chat. That's what this show is for all the fans to come together, kind of have a conversation about it. But nonetheless, Micah Parsons continuing to dominate. When you look at his grade and what he's done on the year, week by week, 66, 91, 82, 94, 78, 92, 58, 66, 64, back up to an 89 against the Giants. And he is grading out a 91.9 on the season. And that is officially, as it sits right now, his second highest graded season, only to the 2023 season there in Dallas. So Micah Parsons continuing to dominate. He's one of the 5 players that we were going to mention here. Keisean Nixon at number 2, guys, 84.5. Had an 81 tackle grade. I thought he was really good in the run fits as well. They gave him a 75.7 run fit grade. There you go. And then coverage grade, 83.7. So Keisean having arguably his best game. Might have been his highest graded game of the season. Actually, no, week 2 against Washington, a 90.7. So you're seeing Key, it's kind of hot and cold with him, right? I mean, you've got his lowest grade of the season is a 42.7 there at Pittsburgh. So struggled in that game, 61 snaps. The thing you can say about Keisean, however, the dude's always on the field. He's always available. He's very, very rarely banged up or hurt, right? So it seems like he has been available all year long. I don't think he's missed a single game, right? So you've got to tip your cap there. Availability, accountability, to the most important abilities of any football player. It don't matter how good you are, how talented or how naturally gifted you are. If you can't stay on the field, or as we say, you can't make the club in the tub, it don't matter how good you are, how talented you are, right? So you got to tip your cap to Keisean staying healthy. So again, the floor, 42.7 in terms of PFF grade this year, and the ceiling has been that 90.7, graded out an 84.5 yesterday. So his grade on the season, a 68.5. Guys, I can't expect much more for a guy who's making, $6-7 million this year. And we know cornerback contracts can get very inflated very, very fast. So I think he's been more than worth the money. Carrington Valentine's starting to step into his own. We'll talk about him here in a second. So it's going to be interesting to see how Keisean finishes, because who knows, man? You know, his last 3 games, 66, 57, 84. Maybe he's turning the corner and he's going to play his best football of the season down the stretch. That would be great news for the Packers. So again, Keisean Nixon, you got to tip your cap. Hell of a ball game there against the Giants. And on the tape, I would agree with that grade. I just made I'm embarrassed to say this. I just made my 5th pass through the tape. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you're seeing all kinds of clips coming out from Chalk Talk where I'm just throwing stuff together and just mentioning, hey, here's what Matt LaFleur did in this concept, piggybacking off that concept, the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, we've probably in trouble with the wife this week. We watched a whole lot of football. Going back to the Gary talk, Mike Superfan says, watched all of Gary's snaps. He appears to be laboring when chasing. Injury, I'm guessing. I agree. And I've seen a couple hustle plays where he's this close to making the play, but he's coming up just a little bit short. And I also seen him tap out a couple times. So that may be they're managing some kind of injury that we don't know about. Or maybe it's an injury that occurred during the game, right, Mike? But we'll see, man. But again, it's a tough business. If we're getting the Gary moving forward that we got last year, I'm all about keeping him for the cap hit we got him next year. If he's kind of hitting that wall, business is business, right? You got to really make a true evaluation this offseason. And I think there's a chance that you meet in the middle. You go to Gary, and we don't, we won't have time to talk about the contract details right now. I do know you could free up somewhere between, some reports are saying $9 million next year if you cut bait with him or trade him. And others are saying that it's somewhere to the tune of $13 million. Usually it's right in between is where I fall. So probably to the tune of 11.5 million you could free up, maybe 10 million, something like that. But you've got to make a decision. All right, is it worth it to keep him on the roster or free that money up and give some of these young guys a chance to step into that role, right? And maybe LVN is that answer. Hopefully we see him this week coming back from the injury as well. But again, Keisean, though, had a great game against the New York Giants. So moving along, we got Xavier McKinney, a 74.1. X just continues to be more and more consistent as the season goes along. You see kind of a rough start according to PFF, 54, 54, then up to a 70, 61, 66, then back up to 77, 72, 82, 67, 74. So his grade is now a 76.9 on the season. So again, Xavier McKinney returning to form from last year, just in PFF size. Now, we've highlighted every time we've talked about this, we would go check and cross-check some of the statistics over on NFL Pro. And if I remember correctly, Xavier McKinney was top 3, top 4 in the league in terms of the amount of snaps he's taken and passer rating when targeted. So that would suggest he's much better than the PFF grades are giving him. Now, when you look at his career grades, 70, 75, 61, 87, 84 last year, 76. So history would suggest we're returning back to those mid to upper 80 grades. So you're probably going to see some of Xavier McKinney's best football down the stretch here too. Just got to stay healthy, obviously. And that's the story for everybody on the team. It kind of goes without saying. So Xavier McKinney, one of the 5 players, absolutely balling out in that game against the Giants. Next, you got Javon Bullard. I know we're all happy to see this. Yeah, it's a great point. Jason Y in the chat says they're just not testing him. It's so true, right? You look at his PFF grades and go from the first few weeks, and we would watch the tape and go, how did he get graded low? Like they didn't even throw his way, you know? So again, I'm tired of arguing or not arguing. I'm tired of complaining about how PFF or they kind of got everything behind the curtain and they won't show you, all right, we graded him this on this specific play. It just seems like, hey, trust me, bro, is kind of their approach, right? So with that being said, Joe Pack Joe says, Bull, yes, Javon Bullard, 72.5 on 47 snaps. It's a little bit uncharacteristic. His run defense and his tackle grade took a slight step back, but his coverage grade jumps to 80.9. We talked about it yesterday on Victory Monday on the early show and the evening show. Javon Bullard, man, he's quickly becoming one of the best, at least the last few weeks, one of the best cover corners in the game, and not just cover nickel corners, slot corners, star player. This is a guy that he's actually grading in the top 10, I want to say 8th or 9th amongst all corners in coverage grade in the last few weeks. And you can see here where he kind of turned the corner. In week 1, 44, then 61, 47, 58. Then in week 6 against Cincy, 71, 73, 69, 64, 66, and now a 72. His grade is now up to a 65.3 on the year. So he is literally 11.1 points higher this year than he was last year, according to PFF. So you're seeing a big year 2 jump for Javon Bullard. The other thing, he probably came into camp, and I think his camp reps would suggest he came into camp his rookie year expecting to play safety. And then all of a sudden they kick him out the nickel and they start, okay, they kind of press him in the nickel. And then all of a sudden we'd have an injury at safety. So they'd have to throw him back to safety. So he never really got comfortable. This year, he's been able to truly just settle into playing that nickel corner spot. And it's probably why you're seeing more consistency. And again, the big thing for me is that coverage grade, 67.2. You know, last year it was a 49. That's a huge improvement for Javon Bullard. You know, we got a chance to meet him just briefly. He was at a restaurant that we were eating at in Green Bay for the draft, and he was sitting at a table with his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, and another gentleman that I had no idea who it was. It may have been related. It may have been his agent, maybe or a personal assistant, something like that. But Bull came walking in there. The thing I noticed about Bull was he's a lot thicker than I expected, which is funny. That's what Halfley said when they first got him into camp. That's that infamous clip that we have, right, that we play all the time where we say he's thick, right? That's the guy he's referring to there. This
thick.
He was talking about Javon Bullard, and man, when you see him in person, you're like, that dude's built like a tank, right? It's almost like he's a linebacker. It's like he's a cornerback trapped in a linebacker's body almost, just the way he's proportioned, right? He's solid. And it's kind of proven, too, that he's been able to stay healthy. I mean, last year he played 816 snaps, and I know that's not a full season to the best of my knowledge. However, as a rookie, man, and adjusting to all those extra snaps, all those extra games throughout the season, that's pretty darn impressive, too. So Javon Bullard, man, off to a great start this year. And again, showing up on Sunday against the Giants. I'm excited to see what he does against the Vikings. What I want to see from Bull is him jumping a route and getting a pick six. That's what I want to see out of that slot position. And playing J.J. McCarthy this week, I'm just saying, J.J. McCarthy might put together his best game of the year, right? But up to this point, J.J. McCarthy has been a turnover machine. The Packers may get just as many, if not more, opportunities to take the ball away and win that turnover differential than they did against Jameis Winston and his crew over there with the Giants. So Cannonball John said, has Bullard ever played linebacker in college? Not to the best of my knowledge, John. He played safety. So if I remember correctly, The year before he came out in the draft, he played nickel in Georgia. And then his senior season, he switched to safety. Okay. So the Packers draft him, and we were talking about, hey, he can play both. He's a hybrid player. They tried to press him into safety. And as time went on, it seemed like he fit more in the nickel. So, and again, you got to take time to study a guy. You got to look at the practice film and truly evaluate, okay, where does he best fit in? And there's nobody I trust more in the world than to put a player in the right spot to succeed than Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley's just been absolutely awesome since he got to Green Bay. But yeah, you guys, if you have different information in the chat, let John know. I don't think he's ever played linebacker, but boy, he looks like he probably could. Mitchell's mommy in the chat said he's going to get that ball soon. Bull been fighting hard to get the ball. Yeah, and we had a couple of missed opportunities in this game, guys running into each other. I think in one situation, right, it was Bull that had the pick, bobbled it, was trying to corral it, and unfortunately Isaiah McDuffie came in and cleaned his clock. But friendly fire is going to happen when you got a defense playing aggressive, right? So again, man, Javon Bullard, one of the 5 players I think balled out in that game as well. The tape suggests the same thing. Now you're going to see a couple clips on Chalk Talk. One in particular where we sacked Jameis Winston on a 4th down. I think it was the Micah Parsons, Isaiah McDuffie sack where Bull gets knocked down on his route. He's covering a tight end. That's not an easy ask, right? And basically the tight end just runs right through his face. And to me, it looked like it might have been beyond 5 yards. You guys know they're going to probably allow the offensive player to run his route and knock guys down without saying too much. So as a defender, you've got to mirror match and kind of stay on your feet. So he ran through on that rep, and I was like, oh, that's an ugly look. But again, coverage grade of 70.2, even with snaps like that, is pretty darn solid. So I'm sorry, not a 70.2, a 80.9 is really, really good. So I was looking at Carrington Valentine, who is our 5th highest graded player, and another player I think played really, really good. When you turn on the tape from the Giants game, man, 70 snaps. I mean, this dude never comes off the freaking field. 71.2 defensive grade. He had a 68.5 run defense grade, a 75.4 tackle grade, and a 70.2 coverage grade. I would much rather see Bullard's grades reflect Carrington's grades here in the slot because he's a little more involved in the run fit, playing, typically lining up over that number 2 receiver in the slot, and you're closer to the run fit. Maybe you got to help set the edge a little bit more. However, it's probably why Carrington's run defense grades are a little bit higher than Javon Bullard's, is because it's a lot easier to play run defense out there on an island, whether you're on the boundary or the field side. And in the Packers' case, they don't have a boundary corner or a field corner. They have left and right cornerbacks, right? Essentially, from the defense's perspective, Keisean's always going to be the left corner. Carrington's always going to be the right. I love that personally, rather than having a field corner, boundary corner, because the cornerbacks, the DBs, the defensive players who don't have a dominant eye, those are few and far between. Right. And what I mean by that is you have a dominant eye, and typically you want the dominant eye to be in position to maximize your coverage. Depending on which dominant eye you have, you want to put them on that side of the field. Like, I've got a right dominant eye. Right. So, there may be some coordinators that go with a right dominant eye once your inside eye, if you're turning sideways, to be there. You know what I mean? Meaning it's actually your outside eye if I'm playing right corner, but I'm turning my body so it's closer to the quarterback if I'm playing with my hips on a swivel. If you're playing square up, you may want the left eye as a right cornerback to be dominant. So I never liked it when they would have corners switch and flip and flop back forth, because that dominant eye situation, I think, is very important from what I've been taught. So I think they see it the same way. Carrington plays it a lot better on the right side of the defense from the defensive perspective, and Key is better on the left. And again, it might be why Key struggled. Maybe that dominant eye thing is an issue for him when he was playing slot and having to go back and forth playing each side. And, linebackers have to have really, really good peripheral vision. And maybe they noticed that with Bull, that he's got good peripheral vision, and that's why they wanted him to play slot, which is a lot more like a linebacker spot as opposed to an outside corner, whether it be field or boundary, right? And when I say field and boundary, guys, it's really simple. Boundary is the short side of the field. The ball is being snapped on the hash, the short side of the field. The hash side of the field where the ball is being snapped is going to be your boundary, and the field is the large side of the field. That's all that means, okay? All right, moving along. So, again, Carrington Valentine, 71.2. That coverage grade is 70.2. You're just talking about consistency. So here are his grades on the year: 72.6, 79.1, 61, 45, 69, 61, 63, 57, 79, 71. So he's putting a stretch together here these last 2 games. man, and he shut A.J. Brown down. For whatever reason, they really tried to put A.J. Brown on Carrington's side most of the day, and I felt like he was erased. Don't get me wrong, Carrington wasn't following him in man coverage and everything, but it just seemed like we seen more matchups of A.J. Brown on Carrington's side, and then you had Devonte Smith on the field side. Typically, it seemed like they were almost always on the left hash. I could be wrong there, but with him being on the field side and playing a little bit of their flyer looks, their slot looks, right, and their motion guys. So, and obviously they burned us with him, but Carrington did a hell of a job cutting down A.J. Brown for most of the day. So again, his grade on the year now, guys, excuse me, it's all consistency, man, 76.0. So Carrington is quickly becoming one of the best corners in the game. He's having his best best year to date. And the thing that you really want to notice about Carrington Valentine, look at this when he got in the league, guys. When he got in the league, 57.5. That rookie year, and to me, the tape matched it completely. You look at Carrington on tape, and it was like, yeah, this guy's going to be a project. Year 2, his snap count went down to 606 from 846. However, played a lot better. Last year, I came away going, damn, this boy can ball. 2 interceptions, both in the red zone. Coverage grade of 71.4. Just things clicked. This year, it's taken an even bigger step. So now you're up to 76.0. So you go from 57 to 65 to 76, an 11-point jump or 10.5-point jump, according to PFF. The tape matches that as well. He looks comfortable. He looks rangy. He's sticky in coverage. Almost had a pick a couple games ago. I think it was against Philly. If he picks that pass off, probably a totally different outcome to that game. The Packers at least tie it or end up winning that ball game. So Carrington Valentine's quickly becoming one of those guys that it's like, okay, we got to think contract extension soon. He's under contract for 1 more year. So they've got to make a decision. And if he goes out and continues to improve and dominate, I think that could be your CB1 moving forward. So now we'll see. He may tank the rest of the year and next year be cheeks, and he's not even a Packer after that. That's happened before. But everything is trending in the right direction. 57, 65, 76. The tape matches it. So, and he's kind of an emotional leader. I've been very vocal that's what Coach Stoops said when he was at Kentucky. They lost their emotional leader when he went to the NFL. And I agreed in college, but when he got to the pros and seeing him try to adjust, I was a little more hesitant on that. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to click for him at the pro level. Man, he's just played so darn good. You know, he reminds me of just, I don't want to say true play style, a little bit though, to be honest with you, but just kind of how he just steadily improves and he works hard and his teammates love him and he's just always available. He reminds me of Tramon Williams. And Tramon Williams was just such an overachiever. So really, really, really like to see him continue that trend for sure. Going back to Javon Bullard, Cannonball John said Javon DB all 3 years in college. There you go. So no linebacker experience. Now he might have got some reps that PFF logged as a linebacker because the nickel, they said, hey, look, when they run this nasty split, this condensed set, they like to run, B gap here. So they would kick him inside and that would get logged as a linebacker, stack backer rep. But again, yeah, he pretty much been a DB the entire time. So, yeah. All right. So, again, Carrington Valentine, man, having a hell of a year. That's exciting. That is really, really exciting, especially for a guy. I think he's making less than $1 million on the year. So what else can you ask for in a guy like that, for sure? So, all right, moving along. Let's just kind of round out the rest of these players. Edgerrin Cooper, 69. Tyron Hopper played 12 snaps, 65. Love to see it, right? Not bad. Nazir Stackhouse played 14 snaps. You haven't heard that name in a while. 63 is his grade. Carl Brooks, a 63 with 37 reps. How's Carl looking on the season? Because I feel like he's been consistent. He's had a couple of really good games there, 70 and a 68, right? So he's a 56.6 on the year, man. PFF, they're still grading him really, really low. This is one of those players I feel like they're probably being a little too rough on Carl Brooks. And I know he hasn't went crazy with the sacks or anything. I think he's got 1 sack right now, 4 hits, 17 hurries. So when you kind of look at it from that perspective, he's got similar snaps. He weighs about 48 snaps shy of where he was last year, and he's 3 sacks behind where he was last year. Although they're making him play 1 tech predominantly now, right? He's in the 1 tech. Devonte Wyatt's in the 3. When Devonte Wyatt was injured, Carl Brooks was still playing 1 tech, and they were bringing other guys in to play 3. So, but he does have 4 hits already and 17 hurries. So he's on pace to potentially surpass those. He's already passed the hit numbers from last year. Okay. And he's on pace to potentially pass the Hurries number as well. It's just the sacks are down, the batted passes are down, and it looks like the tackles are a little bit down too. Although he's got a couple games, he may be able to surpass that. I know this. Jeff Hafley really, really likes Carl Brooks. And I know Matt LaFleur has raved over him ever since he had his rookie camp. But again, Carl Brooks, not a bad game there, 63.3. You like to see it. Here's the Rashan Gary. Let's look at the Rashan Gary talk here real quick, guys. On the season, a 69.6. That's a good grade, you know. But again, when you're talking about one of the top edge defenders in the league, you want it to be significantly higher than that, obviously. But defensive grades on the year, 63, 60, 72, 71, 68, 63, 83 against Pittsburgh. Boy, he was up for that Aaron Rodgers game. 62, 45, 62. Now, let's see if we're maybe being a little bit hyperbolic, I guess is the right word, on the snap count. So his snap counts on the year, 47, 43, 44, 43, 40, 47, 43, 41, 38, 39. So, yeah, you know, Mike, maybe we are digging into this a little bit too deep. He only had 2 less snaps than he did against Carolina, right? And only 4 less snaps than he did against Pittsburgh. I mean, he has peaked at 47 snaps this year. So maybe this is just kind of the norm. Maybe they're trying to work other guys in a rotation. With that being said, if that's the case, then, you know, maybe the coaching staff is recognizing, look, let's get some of these other guys some more reps, you know. I love Rashan Gary. He's one of my favorite players, one of my favorite Packers of all time. I think he plays the game the right way. I think he has been heavily criticized unfairly ever since he signed that contract. He's always leading the team in sacks. He's always leading the team in run stops for the defensive line. He's kind of an emotional leader for the defense as well. I think he's just been a pro's pro. I mean, when you look at the grades too throughout his career, 55, and then his second year doubled his snap count, 68, 89, 82, 79, 73, 69. But listen, no matter how big of a fan I am, right, of Rashan Gary, you've got to recognize that the last 5 years, his grade is trending down, right? Now, I hope he shuts me the hell up and pops that grade back up in the 80s and says, nope, I'm still here and I'm going to be here for a while because, again, I think he's good for the football team. And he is 27 years old. So, you know, I think he'll probably be back next year unless something catastrophic happens on the backside of this season. I think he will be back. But next year, that's when the conversation needs to be, you know, you start having those conversations, go, okay, because you got to model your roster out. It might be something that Lucas Van Ness will be in the final year of his contract next year. You got to make a decision. Do you want to re-sign him? And if you're going to re-sign him and his new contract kicks in the following year, then maybe it's not next year, but the year after that you decide to move on from Rashan Gary. That could be the case as well, right? But then again, Rashan Gary may up his game, and then they go to him and say, hey, let's do a restructure. Let's give you a little extra guaranteed money, write you a check, but lower the overall value of the contract and the cap ramifications for it, free us up a little cap, give you a little guaranteed money if you want to stay in Green Bay long term. I could see Gary wanting to do that, and I could see the team wanting to do that as well. You just got to make sure that the number that you're going to have on the cap matches up with the production. And that's where I disagree with a lot of people on Rashan Gary. I think it's always been damn good money spent because his cap number has always been significantly lower. People always just want to use the average annual value of his overall contract. And I'm telling you, you can paint any picture you want, good or bad, if you use the AAV to make an argument whether a player is overpaid or underpaid. It's all about the guaranteed money. When you got your out, that really truly adjusts what the value of the contract is. I was very vocal with that with Aaron Rodgers. There was a portion of the fan base that always wanted to pretend like Aaron Rodgers was still on all the cap, and it just was not the case. The $50 million quarterback, he was never $50 million against the cap for us, never. And when you decided to move on and absorb that $40 million cap penalty, that's because Goody decided to give him a 3-year extension, and then the very next year go, no, we don't want you now. That was a mistake on Goody's part, my opinion, not Aaron's. So, yeah. But with all that being said, Gary, he's trending backwards right now. But, man, I hope he gets it together. I love watching Rashan Gary play the game because he plays the game the right way. There's just no doubt about it. Katano Ladapa, only 1 rep. Zane Anderson, 1 rep. We'll keep it moving. Baron Sorrell, 57. Evan Williams at 57. This is the one that when I watch the tape, guys, I do not see this. I do not see this at all. Now, there's a couple times that guys get open in the secondary and they're open across the middle, and you've got Evan somewhat in the area. But I'm telling you, we'll talk about it on Chalk Talk, and I don't want to say, no, that wasn't his guy. I want to get the guys' take on it. I want to get the chat's take on it. And we'll kind of collectively come up with an answer, because I felt like it was more on the backers not understanding the depth in which they should run their assignment. They're covering grass again, and Evan Williams is back there patrolling the whole field. So I feel like this is a very, very, very unfair grade for Evan Williams. Obviously, he had the game-sealing interception. Now, one play shouldn't get you a great grade, right? It's all about consistency and what you do over the course of the entire 66 snaps that he played. But I definitely disagree with this grade here. Quay, I kind of agree with. We'll dive into the tape and see what everybody thinks. But there was a couple of times I felt like he should have gotten a little bit of depth, a little more depth. It almost feels like, looking at these grades, that they gave both Evan Williams and Quay Walker bad grades on the same play. And that's just stupid. That is absolutely, that's crazy to me, because both of them can't be wrong, right? One of them is not playing their assignment correctly. And it's almost like, well, yeah, that guy's open. These two defenders are close. Let's give them both a negative grade. It seems like a lazy way to grade them out here. Kobe Wooden, 52.3. Coaching staff loves this dude. They call him the general, 48 snaps. He plays nose for the most part. Just like Carl Brooks will play a lot of one tech. Now, Carl is more of a three tech when Kobe's on the field. If those two are on the field together, right, Carl would play three. Kobe would play one. Predominantly, he is the nose. But PFF doesn't like the way he's playing here lately. He's now got 41, 54, 54, 52 these last few games. I'm not saying I agree with it. That's one of those I look up and go, I don't see him getting beat. I don't see him being dominated or anything, so I can't necessarily agree with that grade either. So Kobe Wooden, I'm not overly concerned about. Kingsley Nibari getting a bunch of snaps, 40 snaps, 51.8. So, here we are talking about Rashan Gary only getting 39 snaps. PFF said he played at a 62.4 level. Kingsley Nibari played 40 snaps. He played at a 51.8 level, right? So that would suggest keep Gary on the field. Now, I did see Gary have to tap out one time, and all players tap out at some point. I've seen Micah tap out. I've seen, the big hog mollies up front. You see a lot more tapping out, a lot more rotating, right? Maybe you get banged up, you jam your knee, you twist an ankle, or you're just dog-ass tired, and you tap out and go get you a breather, get back in there. But Nibari's grade looks pretty rough here. Now, they dropped him in coverage several times, and his coverage grade is 61.0. We'll talk about that on Chalk Talk tonight. Isaiah McDuffie, 47.7. I thought McDuffie played better than that, personally. That's just me. Warren Brinson, only 6 snaps. And then Devonte Wyatt, a 32.9. That's very interesting that they gave him a 32.9. And he only played, let me go back just a touch here for a second. So he only played 34 snaps. That's really interesting why they limited him so much. But on the season now, 78, 68, 56, 70, 68, 60, 33, 32. So he's had back-to-back pretty bad games, according to PFF, right? And he's now grading out a 57.2 on the year right now. We've got the 5th-year option on him for next year, so you want to see him amp up. On the surface, I want to say I don't agree with that grade, although I'm remembering the flash plays, though. I'm remembering the 6-yard tackle for a loss, which, by the way, he was just unblocked. Great burst, great recognition, and something he struggled with was tackling in the past. As you see here this year, 75.5 tackle grade. It's just it seems like they're giving him his worst grade in run defense at a 42.1. And again, they don't tell you why they do that. I assume it's run fit, seeing that you got a tackle grade. So you got your run fit grade, how you play what they think is your exact assignment. Do you get manhandled up front? Do you go to the wrong gap? That type of thing, and not meet your run fit. And then how do you bring the ball carrier down? So that would assume he's playing reckless. I don't really see that on tape, but again, he's got 2 sacks on the year, right? He's got 12 tackles. So he's about to surpass those stats that he had last year in terms of tackles. Last year, he had 5 sacks on 366 snaps. This year, he's at 300 snaps, and he's only got 2 sacks. So he's got to amp that up a bit if he's going to surpass that. And again, you guys know how I feel. It's more about pressure rate than it is sacks for me. So as we get ready to wrap up here, appreciate everybody in the chat. I'm going to hop over to NFL Pro real quick, and I just want to see if that checks out with Devonte Wyatt. I want to see what his pressure percentage looks like. Because, again, you look at the PFF grades, and that would suggest he's not playing that well, right? If we were to jump in here and let's actually key in on the Packers defensive line here. Okay, let's do that. Let's start with that. So let's just go all Green Bay Packer numbers here. We're going to go defensive line for the Packers. And now let's look at stops. Let's go to stops. Okay, so leading the team, surprise, surprise, right? Rashan Gary with 27 stops, still continuing to dominate there. 7.5 sacks on the season. Now they've got Micah listed as a linebacker for whatever reason. I have no idea. So Micah obviously leading the team in sacks, but Rashan Gary amongst the other defensive linemen, 7.5 sacks. Devonte Wyatt with 2, right? So, and then when you go to pressure percentage, quarterback pressure percentage, Lucas Van Ness is sitting at 14%. Really excited to get Lucas Van Ness back. Now, it's only 100 pass rush snaps, right? So it's significantly lower than Gary's 253, but Gary at a 12.6%. That's solid quarterback pressure percentage. Kingsley Enagbare, 11.4. Warren Brinson, 11.1. Far fewer snaps, right? Only 36 pass rushes. Baron Sorrell, 9.1. Carl Brooks, 6.9. Devonte Wyatt is at 6.5%. Again, you got to do that on a game-by-game basis. You got to look at, all right, was it a cage rush? Was there a touch spy involved? Was he truly rushing the quarterback? Because what these guys are going to do is, that was a pass rush down, right? Did he get within a certain amount of distance to be considered a pressure according to GPS tracking through NFL Pro? PFF doesn't even tell you how they do it. They just say, yeah, we had him as a pressure, not a pressure, whatever, hits, hurries, knockdowns, things like that. But yeah, that would suggest, according to NFL Pro, that Devonte Wyatt's having a bad year. There's no two ways about it, right? So if you go to stops, once again, we go to run stops here. Devonte Wyatt has 15 run stops on 112 snaps. Gary has 136 run D snaps and 27 stops. So that's 12 more than Devonte Wyatt. So Kobe Wooden, again, you look at the NFL Pro data and you can understand why they have Devonte Wyatt's grade significantly lower, but Kobe Wooden's doesn't make a damn bit of sense other than the quarterback pressure percentage, right? So his run defense grade should be through the roof according to NFL Pro, but his pressure percentage at 4%, not good. However, remember what we said. You're in your nickel 4-2-5 the majority of the time. Kobe Wooden is your 1 tech. Devonte Wyatt's your 3. Your 3 should be getting to the quarterback or trying to get to the quarterback. The 1, most of the time, is a touch spy. If you've got some kind of a harnessed cage rush, like against a Jalen Hurts, against a Bryce Young, somebody like that, where you're just going to engage with the center and the guard, and you're just going to kind of hold your ground and look for the quarterback to scramble or wait for him to step up in the pocket and then press the pocket into him, right? That's what you call a touch spy. So with Kobe Wooden, the run stops, that's a great stat there. That makes me feel a lot better about how Kobe's playing. But Devonte Wyatt, I'm a little bit concerned about Devonte Wyatt. So I'd like to keep our eye on him for the rest of the season as well. So let's see here. iRock in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, didn't Wyatt get injured and miss a couple games this season? He did. So, maybe that has a lot to do with it too, right? Maybe he's not completely back to himself. I'm trying to think, was it an ankle, guys? Help me out in the chat. What was it that he got hurt with? Let us know in the comments. I'm trying to remember what the injury was. It's funny, once the guys get back on the field, it's like I put that injury stuff in the past and I don't even think about it. I can't even remember what the details of the injuries were. So, yeah. Let's see here what our boy Deadfish says. Could it be that without Kenny Clark, teams are able to focus more on Wyatt? I understand what you're saying, Deadfish, but last year, Kenny, with the injury he had, he played 1 tech. So he was doing a lot of the touch spying, right? And Devonte Wyatt was playing 3, meaning he's rushing the quarterback for the most part. So I would say no, but I could be wrong. I would say no there just based off of what the tape shows. To me, it feels more like either something's not right with Devonte, kind of like what iRock's saying, that he has battled injuries, or maybe it's something else, right? So it was a knee injury. There you go. Thank you, Jason. So maybe that's what's doing it, right? And the coaches know we don't. We're not in the rooms, right? Yeah, there you go, Bates. Sorry you had it first too, man. Appreciate you. You said it looked like it was a knee miss weeks 5 and 6. So you would think he's back to his normal self by now, right? With it being, that was week 10 we just played. So week 9 and 10 he struggled. But who knows, man? Maybe behind the scenes they're having a little bit of problems there. So, but with that being said, that's it, guys. Just want to give you all a quick little defensive update. We didn't have time to hit these PFF grades last night because it was just it was awesome. Victory Monday. We had a blast. Briefly going over the tape, showing this reaction, that reaction. It was just a lot of fun. We got great feedback. So really, really appreciate everybody jumping in here and hanging out. Chuck asked, show later. Absolutely, Chuck. 6 p.m. Central. We may go live a little bit early. I'm going to get with the guys because Chalk Talk goes long sometimes. I'm going to lead off the show. Bill Huber did the consensus power rankings breakdown. I love that he does that. He takes multiple sources and says, all right, here's where these different media outlets have the Packers ranked in the power rankings. So it kind of gives you a broader perspective, not just one biased opinion. We'll hit that for about 15 minutes, and then we dive right into Chalk Talk. It's going to be an absolute blast. So make sure you guys, if this is your first time tuning in, click subscribe, hit that bell icon so you're notified when we go live, like later, for the film breakdown. And let us know in the comments, man. If you're watching this video back later, we'll have it edited out and up as a separate video. Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you think these 5 players were the best players on the field? Maybe one of the players we talked about that got a low grade you felt like should have been graded higher. We want to hear from you. We want to get your opinion, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether we agree or disagree. Just be respectful, and let's get everybody's opinion. That's the whole purpose of the show. The whole purpose of the channel is giving Packer fans a voice to come in and voice their opinion, obviously, and us just have a good time following the season together. So appreciate everybody in the live stream. You guys are awesome, man. To do a random show and have this many people jump in. Really, really appreciate the support. So hit that like button, hit subscribe, and we will see y'all tonight at probably 6 p.m. Central. May go a couple minutes early, 5:30 p.m. Central, something like that. But we'll be in here breaking down a tape and, again, trying to figure out what happened, why did it happen, and get everybody's opinion on what we are seeing. So we'll see y'all tonight. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.